Let's talk about Jermaine Johnson, because it was heartbreaking to see a guy like Jermaine Johnson who's worked so hard. You know, he's out for the year with a torn Achilles. And Zach and I were both at the game. We talked about this. He talked in the locker room last night. And you don't see guys after injuries like that talk after a major injury. And it was really cool for him to do it. But he says, I'll be back. So guys, does that mean that the Jets need to work out a deal with Haason Reddick? Zach, I'll let you talk because Connor likes to talk for a long time.
If Haason Reddick didn't have leverage before, he certainly does now. This defense is predicated on the defensive line winning up front. They don't blitz, they don't do exotic things. It's just the defensive linemen go one-on-one and they win their matchups. And when you take away Jermaine Johnson and you don't have Bryce Huff and John Franklin Myers in there, I don't have a lot of confidence in this group winning their matchups consistently. Will McDonald had a great game. He had 3 sacks. The last one was the best one. He won with power. Robert Saleh has been asking for that all offseason. But he has not been a full-time starter. He has not had other teams preparing for him all week. Michael Clemens has not shown much as a pass rusher. Takk McKinley's a journeyman, and you have a couple of undrafted rookies. And so you look at that defense, and they need pass rush to succeed. And so the unique thing about this losing a key player like Jermaine is that you have the guy that can fix it on the roster. He just hasn't shown up since his introductory press conference. So if they were ever going to make this work with Haason Reddick, they're going to have to make the call. Joe Douglas is going to have to call him and give him some money. I don't know how much he wants or how much he needs in order for him to be willing to show up. We don't know what kind of shape he's in even, but over the last 4 years, he has the 4th most sacks in the NFL. He's one of the best pass rushers in the NFL, and he's a guy that can make a huge impact. Maybe he's not going to help in the run game, but he is a significant upgrade over what they have, and then it allows them to do a lot of other things on the defense. So whether he's willing to come to the Jets at all, maybe he's not at this point. Even if Joe Douglas were to call him, it's a real possibility. You never see him in a Jets uniform. But Joe Douglas needs to make the call, and they need to see what they can do to try and convince him to come, because I wouldn't say their season depends on it, but it kind of does a little bit.
Did we see glimpses, O'Connor, with Will McDonald? Can he kind of fill somewhat of a void?
It's tough because I think, honestly, Jeanne, and we talked a little bit about this in the open, is that I don't look at Jermaine Johnson and just see pass rusher. Like if you compare this situation to the Jets last year and say they lost Bryce Huff, it's like, okay, well, he's a pure pass rusher. They just need another pure pass rusher. Boom, you throw then you throw Will McDonald up, and Will McDonald can take those snaps from him. Or if they had lost John Franklin Myers, he's kind of like that run-stuffing defensive end. It's like, okay, well, Michael Clemens can kind of fill in and do that role for them. Jermaine Johnson was the one player in this defensive line that did everything. Like he's not just a pass rusher. Yes, he rushes the passer well, but he's also the run stuffer. He's the one player that Aaron Wycott and Jeff Ulbrich could hang their hat on and say, like, this guy is just going to be a stabilizing force on the outside. So if the Jets go out there and they were able to bring in Haason Reddick, it's going to be a major infusion of talent into their pass rushing department. But how does it help the run game? It's such a brutal blow and the first true test of adversity, because there's not one player that's going to fix everything. There's so much that Johnson does well and so much that he was asked to do for this team. Even just that side, think about the defensive ends anyway. You feel maybe not so confident with Michael Clemens as an edge-setting force. Now suddenly you're going to feel not so confident either side. I know Will McDonald's going to certainly play a ton more. You're going to see McGregor fill in as well, probably when the Jets need a little bit more bulk on the outside for Jermaine Johnson. But the first part's going to get an infusion of snaps is Will McDonald. I just worry that, Haason Reddick would help the pass rush, but I don't necessarily know if he replaces Jermaine Johnson, because truthfully, I don't think there is a replacement on this roster, because there isn't a complete defensive end on the roster. Haason Reddick, he was a player. One of the reasons why the Eagles wanted to move on was because they felt he sold out for sacks last year for them. The last couple of years, that's all he did. He was the OCU manure, running around the outside just to make sure he could get his 10 sacks a year. That's great when you also have players that can stop the run. But now what are the Jets going to do? Have a pass rusher in Will McDonald who can't necessarily play the run, and then a pass rusher in Haason Reddick who can't really play the run, and then Michael Clemens, who I don't necessarily know how much this team trusts. I mean, this is a brutal, brutal blow for a team. And Reddick would help things. I don't know if, Zach, you could talk about this too. I don't know if this is going to soften any stance, because I don't know where the money is coming from to pay him. I mean, there has to be someone willing to write that check, and I don't know if the Jets are willing to write that check right now until he shows up. But it would be the first step, probably, is bring him in and then figure it out. But I don't know if it necessarily fixes anything.